Hi, this is Lisa Somerville for Divinity Designs. Today I'm here to share with you the release for May 2022. This month we're releasing 4 stamp die duos, 2 foiling die duos, 2 foiling plates, and 4 custom dies. The 4 stamp die duos that are being released this month are all clear stamps. These stamp die duos include both the stamps and the dies so that you can easily die cut the images from the stamp sets. You'll notice that these are large clear stamps. When stamped, all of the stamped images will stamp at one time. Then you'll use the dies to die cut all of the images. The stamp die duos being released are zoo animals. This is a set of 2. You have the clear stamps and then the die plate. Dinosaur stamp die duos, again a set of 2, the clear stamps and the die plates. Bold Blessings, a set of 2. Included is 1 clear stamp set and the coordinating die. And the All Occasion Stamp Die Duo set, again a set of 2. Included is 1 clear stamp set and 1 coordinating die. So here you can see when you stamp the images or the sentiments from the Stamp Die Duos from the May 2022 release, all of the images or sentiments are going to stamp at one time. So after stamping onto your cardstock, you'll simply align the die over the stamped images, or if using the sentiment sets, you'll align the die over the stamped sentiments. Then you'll use removable tape to hold that die in place, then die cut following the directions for your die cutting machine. That will leave you die cut images or sentiments that you can use on your projects. Again, the Stamp Die Duos in the May 2022 release each contain 1 clear stamp set and 1 coordinating die. You want to be sure that you have a large acrylic block so that you can easily stamp all the sentiments or the images from these Stamp Die Duo sets. Here's a few examples from the design team using some of these sets. Now let's move on to our foil die duos. So when you look at our packaging, anytime you see yellow and purple on the packaging, the yellow does indicate foiling and the purple does indicate dies. Again, we have a foiling plate and the die plate so that you can easily die cut your foiled words. To use our foiling products, you're going to want to make sure that your die cutting and your foiling machine are compatible with each other. To use the foiling plates, place the foiling die on your foiling machine. Wait until the light turns green. Then you're going to place the foil pretty side down on top of the foil plate, then the cardstock that you want to add the foil to, and then follow the directions for your foiling machine to foil the dies. So after foiling, you'll remove the foil from the cardstock, center the die over the foiled words or verses, use removable tape to hold that die in place, and then die cut following the directions for your die cutting machine. Don't throw away the negative of your foil because I'm going to show you how to use that later on in this video. As you can see, using our foil die duos, you'll have foiled words or verses that you can use to embellish your cards or projects. Here's a few samples created by our design team using our foiling die duos along with additional Divinity Designs products. Here's one using the negative foiling. Again, here's another one using the negative foiling. Next, I'm going to share with you the 2 foiling plates being released this month. We have the Waves foiling plates and the solid foiling plates. Again, remember when you see yellow on the packaging, that does indicate you need a hot foil machine. Your hot foil machine should be compatible with your die cutting machine. Again, to foil these dies, you'll follow the directions for your hot foil machine and then use that along with your die cutting machine. Here's a few examples of the Waves foiling plate along with additional Divinity Designs products. These cards were created by our design team. Shown here is an example of the Waves foiling plate done in rainbow foil on black glossy cardstock. The solid plate is going to allow you to use the negative area of your foil so that you're not wasting any of the foil. So again, shown here is the positive foil from the Waves foiling plate. And here's the negative. Again, both of these pieces have been done on black glossy cardstock. This is the negative of the foil from the foil panel that I showed you earlier in the video. And it was die cut on white cardstock. You have the words done in silver and then the white background. To foil using the negative area of your foil, you'll place the foil pretty side down on the solid plate, then add your cardstock and foil following the directions for your foiling machine. Shown here, I use the negative of my foiling on black glossy cardstock. After foiling using the solid plate and the negative area of your foil, you'll simply align the die over your foiled cardstock, then die cut following the directions for your die cutting machine. Again, when you use the solid plate with the negative area of your foil, you're going to have a foiled background, and then the cardstock's going to show through to where the words or the verses are. Again, this top one is the negative foiling using the solid plate, and the bottom is the regular foiling. Now here's a few other examples using the solid foiling plate along with the pierced Waves foiling plates. On both of these examples, I started out using the solid plate along with silver foil. Then on this one, I used the positive of the Waves foiling plate in rainbow foil to create a layered look using two different foils. So again, the solid plate is used on the bottom with silver foil, and then I use the Waves foiling plate on top with the rainbow foil. And on this one, I used the negative of the rainbow foil along with a solid plate that was done in silver on the bottom. So here the silver shows through and the full panel is rainbow. And on this one, I have the solid silver with the rainbow foil on top. After foiling the Waves foiling plate, you can easily die cut that panel using the layered die found in the A2 Portrait or A2 Landscape card base with layered die sets. Next, we'll move on to the 4 custom dies being released this month. Pierced Vintage Labels 2 is a set of 5. It coordinates with our Vintage Labels 2 die set. That way you can layer the 2 dies together. Again, when using our dies, anytime you see 2 shades of purple on the packaging or the web images, that does indicate that you should emboss your dies for best results. And shown here are a few examples from our design team using the Pierced Vintage Labels 2 die set. You can also create frames using both of these die sets. You'll simply align the smaller die within the opening of the larger die. Use a removable tape to hold those dies together, then die cut and emboss following the directions for your die cutting machine. That will leave you an opening within the center of the shape. Then you can simply align a larger die cut panel behind the opening, add a stamped or foiled word, and then use to embellish your project. The next die set is the Pierced Waves background. After die cutting this die, following the directions for your die cutting machine, you can use our tool-in-one to easily remove any cardstock that's left within your die cut panel. Our tool-in-one has both the brush tip and a piercing tip to help you remove any unwanted cardstock from the cardstock panel. Here you can see the Pierced Waves background die cut and then layered on top of the A2 Portrait card base die. This die cut panel is the same size as the layering panel that comes with both the A2 Portrait and A2 Landscape card base. Now here you can see it layered on top of the matting rectangle die. The matting rectangle adds a pop of color between this die and the base card. And shown here are 2 examples from our design team using this die along with additional Divinity Designs products. The next die is the Slimline Pierced Petals background die. It coordinates with our Slimline card base and the dies found in our Slimline die collection. Shown here is an example from one of our design team members. Again, when die cutting this die, be sure to emboss the die to bring out the details of the die, following the directions for your die cutting machine. Shown here is the Slimline pierced petals background on top of the Slimline card base. Shown here we have the Slimline pierced petals background, the Slimline layering rectangles, and the Slimline card base. The Slimline pierced petals background, Slimline layering rectangles, Slimline rectangles, Slimline card base, Slimline pierced petals background, Slimline layering rectangles, Slimline rectangles, Slimline scalloped rectangles, and the Slimline card base. And finally shown here we have the Slimline pierced petals background, Slimline layering rectangles, Slimline pierced rectangles, Slimline scalloped rectangles, and the Slimline card base. For those of you that are visual crafters, I hope this helps show you how you can use this along with our additional Slimline dies. The final die set that I have to share with you is the Slimline pierced large windows die. Again, this die coordinates with our Slimline die collection. When this die cuts, it will add all the piercing and all the rectangles will fall from the center of the die cut. Shown here are a few examples from our design team. Let me share with you some different ways that you might use this die along with some of the Slimline dies you might already own. Shown here is the Slimline pierced large windows with the Slimline layering rectangles. Now let's add in the Slimline pierced rectangles, the Slimline scalloped rectangles, and then the Slimline card base. You can also use this along with some of our other Slimline window dies. Shown here is the Slimline pierced large window with the Slimline pierced window frame, and here you can see it on the Slimline pierced rectangles. Shown here, I've added it on top of the Slimline circle windows and the Slimline pierced rectangles. Now here's a fun look using the Slimline pierced large windows, the Slimline rounded windows, and the Slimline scallop die. Shown here, I've added it to the Slimline pierced frame. Shown here is the Slimline pierced large windows with the Slimline cross-stitch background and the Slimline pierced rectangles. Shown here is the Slimline pierced large windows with the Slimline pierced petals background and the Slimline pierced rectangles. Shown here, I've used it with the Slimline quatrefoil background and the Slimline pierced rectangles. The Slimline cubes background, along with the Slimline pierced large windows and the Slimline pierced rectangles. The Slimline pierced large windows, the Slimline flower petal background, and the Slimline pierced rectangles. Those are just a few of the many Slimline dies that you can use along with the Slimline pierced large windows die set. Now let me show you a look at some of the border dies that you can use along with the Slimline pierced large windows. This is the Slimline curvy slopes, the Slimline grasses, and the Slimline clouds. And here's a look at some of our Slimline embossing folders used along with the Slimline pierced large windows. As you can see, there are many different looks that you can achieve using our Slimline die collection along with the Slimline pierced large windows. For more inspiration using these and additional Divinity Designs products, visit the product pages on our website, like us on Facebook, or follow us on Pinterest and Instagram.